Hello, gentle viewers. This is App Guardian, welcoming you back to Out of the Park Baseball 25 with the St. Louis Cardinals. This is our final episode with the Cardinals. Excuse me. And we only have 10 more episodes after that in this series. I did say at the beginning I was going to end in 1970, and I think I'm ready to try something else. So I'm still waiting for people to make any suggestions that they might have. I kind of don't want to do historical again. Or if I'm going to do historical, I want it to be the recent past. I don't want it to be going back too far. And I've talked about this many times in this series, but it's just a different game when you play historical because of the lack of free agency and how easy it is to keep your players. Um, and I like a certain amount of turnover in my roster. I think that's what makes the game compelling to me. It makes for interesting decisions. I mean, as happy as I am that we've won this many World Series, it's really because of one decision, which is drafting Mickey Mantle. Now that's okay, that's a little bit reductive. Like, we've definitely made other important decisions to build the team around Mickey Mantle. Going for a guy like Veda Pinson, even though there wasn't an obvious spot for him, and he just casually comes in and is like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be rookie of the year this year. Awesome. Um, Picking up Rocky Colavito, picking up Albie Pearson, Ernie Banks, Ken Boyd. These are all players that I selected, and they've all worked out pretty well for us. But at the end of the day, the secret is Mantle. Like that's what took this team from decent to we're making the playoffs. We're winning a pennant every year, and then just utterly dominating when we get there. Um, so yeah, the supporting cast matters a lot, but I think it would be foolish to underestimate how important it is just to have someone with the raw awesomeness of Mickey Mantle. Um, but yes, so going back to what I'm thinking of maybe doing next. So let's see, 10 episodes. Uh, Not counting this one, is gonna take us to the end of this year, I think. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not quite. It'll be the last week of December that we pick up a new team. Um, or a new playthrough. I'm not gonna do this franchise anymore. I think I've gotten what I wanted to get out of it, and I don't particularly feel like I am obligated to go back to it later on. So a couple ideas that I had. Um, it would be kind of cool to take one of the more recent expansion teams in the era of free agency, in the era of no reserve clause, and see how quickly I can build that team up. The other possibility is we just go modern, but we pick a different team. We won't pick an expansion new team. We'll pick an established team. Um, Maybe see how long it can take us to rebuild the White Sox. I don't know. I don't really have too many great ideas, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's kind of where I am right now. I'm happy to hear any ideas that you all might have. The other possibility is we just go to one OTP series for a bit, and then just add in something like Crusader Kings 3, maybe a little bit of RimWorld, uh, or some other stuff. Maybe do some Tabletop Simulator, something like that. So I will post a poll on the community tab and on Reddit. Not this week. I want to give it a little bit more time for people to think about it. But in the meantime, feel free to drop something in the comments and let me know. I'll probably even post on Twitter, even though I'm not really going on Twitter very much these days. I just don't find it an appealing platform anymore. But I do know there's some people that only follow me on Twitter. So I will use this last thing before I actually play the fucking game as a cheap plug to remind you that if you want the most up to date information about the channel, the best place to go is Reddit because it's the only place that I really post regularly. And even then, I acknowledge I don't do a good job of posting there either. So if there's something you want me to talk about, something you get questions about, I'm more than happy to give you a little bit of a chat. With that being said, let's get some baseball in. That's what we're all here for today. So easy choice is 1 and 2. I want to keep Dick Stigman and I want to keep Dick Schofield. I guess I just love me some Dicks. Give me all the Dicks. Um, and I don't know that either one of them has a direct role on this team right now, but I don't want to see them get taken by somebody else in case I do need them. Schofield is by far closer to being major league ready than Stigman. Stigman's not bad. Speaking of Stigman, we need to work on his control again. I've been doing this since we drafted this fucker 6 years ago. Not quite 6 years ago, 5 years ago. But he just keeps not improving his control to the point where I can trust him in a big time situation. Let's start with that. I also want to improve Zoilo Versailles, but I'm like, he's not going to make the team this year. He's way too far away from the big leagues. I'll still train him. There's no reason not to, but it's like it's going to make a difference. Horace Clark is closer. Work on your defense. No, he needs to work on plate discipline. He's already a mid-tier second baseman right now. But for him to be actually useful, he needs to be able to, hit baseballs. And that is a critical aspect of the game that he is struggling in. Improve control. Dave Nicholson, if he is ever going to be successful, is going to have to be able to hit. This is a huge shot in the dark. And I'll probably never get to enjoy the fruits of my labor, but I'm going to give him good quality of contact. Because his contact is so low, and it's only going to level up so much that I genuinely don't think his career is going to be very good. If he cannot get out of this particular hole he finds himself in. How did he actually hit in the minors last year? He was pretty bad. Not so bad in low A, but once he hit double A, he really struggled. Which is fair. The kid's 19. Um, I don't know what you were like when you were 19, but I'm pretty sure you were not dominating major league hitters or quasi major league hitters. And we'll go ahead and give Dick Stigman his control boost. All right. What do we want to upgrade this offseason? Catcher has gone from being a real strength to a real weakness. We need some young blood on this team pretty desperately. That's probably the number one area we could use an upgrade in offensively is catcher. Vic Power, he's just going to keep playing second base. I acknowledge that he's not. My problem with Vic Power is his skill set. Like, he's a good defender. Like, he handled himself fairly well at second base last year, as you can see. And he's got a potent bat. But it's not like a top tier bat. So this is very much going to be, I think he's the best we can get at second base for a year or two, and then maybe the next general manager will find themselves a nice improvement. He will always be limited by his bad eye. I cannot stress this enough in OOTP. Players that don't have a lot of discipline and don't draw walks are going to be in a whole lot of trouble unless they are otherworldly stupid good at the other offensive skills. Like, you can always run into that golden lottery ticket year where for that 1 year their walk rate is really high, and that player can be special. Like, they can be truly special and be ready to just dominate the league. But you're always going to be on that really thin line, really, really thin, where how good is this going to end up being? We don't know. So I cannot stress that enough. If you're ever wondering why your team is struggling, batting eye is about the most valuable skill you can have because it's repeatable. Batting average is so untrustworthy because ultimately, once you put the bat on the ball, you don't control what happens to that pitch. A really great defender can snag a ball and throw you out, or just make a diving catch or whatever. And even though you did your job, you still failed. And that's what makes batting average so volatile. It's not up to you. All you can do is hit the ball as hard as you possibly can. And maybe it goes over the fence. Fantastic. That's why home runs are so valuable. But it doesn't go over the fence. You're at the mercy of the defense. So just something to think about as you're trying to decide what kind of players do I want. I have a huge weakness for players with big contact and big gap power. It's only this game that I've actually broken that love of players that can do that. They've got to have a secondary skill. It can't just be contact and great gap power. I'm only playing this game for one more year. So I have no compulsion whatsoever about leaving power in. And especially given his minuscule strikeout rates, which are really fantastic, I think that puts him a little bit ahead of the game versus others. But I'm really just looking for league average, above league average offense, and good defense. That's all I'm really looking for second base. I'm perfectly happy with him. I'd like some depth in the infield. Um, like you're always looking for depth. There's never a time when depth is not desirable. But we just don't have good middle infielders. We just don't. That are ready to take over in an emergency. Dick Schofield is close, but I'd love to get some more depth in the infield. I want to do something with Jim Gentile. I just don't see him playing for the Cardinals. I truly don't. I just think Boucher is better than he is for what I want. But the craziest fucking thing is nobody wants him. Like, not a single person will trade for Jim Gentile, and I cannot fathom that. I cannot see what it is about a guy like Jim Gentile, and they're like, yeah, no thanks. It literally blows my mind that I cannot move this guy for love or money. I mean, he is making 26 grand. Okay, fine. What if I pay his salary? Can I get a prospect? No. Can I get a regular or a veteran? No. I'm being offered one player who I absolutely do not want. It's so weird to me. Like, I'm not going to cut him. I make enough money that I don't care. And I want somebody to be able to replace Ed Boucher should we have that opportunity. But it's such a mindfuck to me that nobody wants him. Like, you can't tell me that every single team in the league is like, man, that guy sucks. I don't want any part of him. I don't get it. I truly don't understand it, but we'll just take solace that we have a really excellent first baseman in the minor leagues. So, should something happen to Ed Boucher, I guess that's a thing. Okay. So catcher is priority number one. I'd love another starting pitcher. Can never get enough starting pitchers, especially because they're going to make Hoyt Wilhelm into a starting pitcher, which I don't approve of in the least. I think that's very stupid. I'd rather have him as the dominant reliever than try to make him into a starter. Because I love Mudcat Grant. He's a nice guy, and he had a great season last year, but I don't expect him to be able to replicate it. At least not genuinely. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'd love a starting pitcher. I'd love to continue upgrading the bullpen if we can manage that. I desperately need a new catcher, so these are what we're looking at. Let me start at. There's literally nobody on the trading block. Okay. We don't want to trade anybody for anything. That's fair. Let's go ahead and advance some time a bit, and then we can see who's able to draft this year. I don't want to play too heavily, like, oh, ha 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 ha, fuck this team. I'm not going to tear it apart because one of the things I enjoy doing is seeing teams that I built continue to succeed, even if I'm not there anymore. AL, I don't really care about this, but I do care about NL. Ken Boyer and Harvey Haddix. Nice. That's interesting. It's his first ever Gold Glove, despite being a pretty damn good third baseman. Harvey Haddix is an amazing defender as a pitcher, which is pretty cool. Let's just keep going. This may just be a season where there's just not much we can do to improve the team. Which is another downside of this era of baseball history. It's just really hard to find better players. Hoy Wilhelm, nice. Veda Pinson and Mickey Mantle and Ernie Banks all won. Dang, you turned Frank Thomas into an amazing third baseman. That's pretty cool, actually. I mean, amazing third baseman is perhaps overstating it, but he was good enough to play the field, and yeah. Mm, I didn't have a spot for him. So Veda Pinson easily wins Rookie of the Year. I'm not surprised. Manager of the Year. I did not win Cy Young. I didn't think that I would. Although Connie Johnson came close. Ooh, look how close that was. Oh my stars. Mickey Mantle wins his fourth MVP, but barely. Like, that's. Wow. That's crazy. I mean, people winning MVP and Rookie of the Year are so few. I know Ichiro did it, and I know somebody else did it too. Let's see. MLB Rookie of the Year and MVP same year. Fred Lynn is the other one. Uh, when he played for the Red Sox, and then I guess Fernando Valenzuela's the one to win Rookie of the Year and Cy Young in the same year. So that's wild. Truly wild. Anyways, let us continue. A very successful season. Very successful indeed. That's one of those things where the pedigree of the player probably helped him. Um, I mean, I don't think Veda Pinson will ever be that good again, but he might be. Start at the bottom. I will vote for Howie Paulette. I have no problem with him getting in. This is gonna sound weird, and it's only weird in this context. I'm gonna vote for Jackie Robinson, but I don't think this version of Jackie Robinson is as guaranteed a Hall of Famer as the real life one was, just because we integrated so much earlier to the point where he's really a great Negro Leagues player. He's not one of the best Negro Leagues players, if that makes sense. We'll vote for Monty Irvin. I will vote for Ken Keltner and Max Lanier. Not that it's gonna matter. I don't think any of these guys have too much of a chance. Gonna go for Bob Feller. I'll vote for Moore Cooper, although I think his candidacy is just doomed at this point. I feel like a lot of his appeal is the fact that he won 6 World Series trophies, but his career numbers actually aren't that good. Um, I'll vote for Edgar Chapman, Roy Campanella, and Harry the Cat. That feels like the right call, so we'll do that. Yeah. Oh, obviously by now you probably already heard that Pete Rose passed away not long ago. Very complicated man. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't see how you could leave him out. If he wasn't stupid enough to bet on baseball, I think Pete Rose is in the Hall of Fame. It's not even a question. Um, yeah, I don't think. I think that's a trivial question. I don't think anyone has ever argued the fact that he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. If you want to gap him for being a compiler rather than ever having that much of a peak, that's fair. But then you're also going to have to discount Ichiro for the same thing. Although Ichiro's peak is a little bit better in some ways than Pete Rose's was, because he was also a fantastic base runner. But That's an awfully fine rookie class. There's some really good players there. Hawk Harrelson, Boog Powell, Carl Yastrzemski, Ron Santo, Willie Davis, another one of the original what might have been kind of scenarios where he just kept getting hurt. I think he's. Oh no, he's not the guy I was thinking of. I'm thinking of Eric Davis, the one who played for the Reds. I mean, Willie Davis also was a perfectly prominent baseball player and pretty good at his job, but look at all these fucking losers not able to get any more innings pitched than those guys. SMH in my head. All right. I'm gonna focus on default because I think it's just an easier way to sort players. I'd love somebody who's going to be ready this year, but if there's another worldly talent, we have to take it. Um, ooh. My gut reaction is if he's available, I would take Earl Francis, but I don't like his low control. Hmm. This is indeed a troubling universe. He's really the only guy here that I would consider definitely taking if he fell to me. I mean, okay, I'd take Dean Chance in a heartbeat. But all these other guys are just not very well developed, which means they're not going to be terribly helpful right now. Collier Strumsky would be pretty cool. But we'll see who's still around when I get to draft. Why is still Necro rated? Huh? What? This man had 5,000 innings in the major leagues, and yet you're trying to tell me that he's not a starting pitcher. Sometimes historical players, when they get imported, weird shit happens. I think there's an example of weird shit happening. Unless the whole idea is going to be, because he started out as a reliever, that's how the game's categorizing him. But he was very much one of the best starters in Major League Baseball for a very long time. Um, so I don't know. I'm highly tempted to actually take Phil Negro just because I don't see anyone else that's Major League ready. So I think we'll go ahead and draft him. But I do need a catcher, don't I? Duke Sims is not a catcher. Tim McCarver is. He wants lots of money, but I think he's the right fit for this club. I'm gonna hope that Negro falls to us in the second round, but he probably won't. Yeah, somebody else already grabbed him. Let me grab Ellie Hendricks too, or maybe Jesus Alou actually. No, I'll happily grab Ellie Hendricks though, and I will offer him all of the money that he could ever want. He wants $55,000. It's good to think for you. I have $400,000 to spend. That'll help us restock our catching pool, although neither one of them are going to be ready this year to be terribly helpful. But that's still a nice thing to have in our back pocket. Gene Michael offers some level of depth in the infield. I'm not saying I can't use a player like that. You can do that. It's perpetual Pat Corrales. Because he had a rolling 1 year contract when he managed Cleveland back in the day. I mean, I don't know how you pass up on perpetual Pat Corrales. I would drop Jesus Salou just because he keeps falling, and mostly because there's a chance he could run into a pretty great year, and then I'll grab Pat Corrales just because of the name. And then do what you want, man. I think Dario Segui is actually David Segui's father, who also played for Cleveland. There's a time when David Segui is actually a pretty good first baseman. Okay, you can't forget Cliff Pollitt, the 20th round draft pick, is like, I want to go to Notre Dame unless you pay me a whole shit ton of money. And to you, my answer is meh. How much money do you actually want? You want 19 grand to stay with us. And the thing is, unless you get really lucky, you're not going to be that good at pitcher. Like, you have to get better control to have even a snowball's chance in hell of being a reasonably good pitcher. I just feel like that's a bad risk. Even when playing with house money, you still have to make smart decisions. So I don't think that's going to be a guy we get after. Everybody signed. It is time for the Rule 5 draft. Let's see if we can grab some peeps. Not the marshmallow things, because those things are fucking disgusting, but people. I mean, if you're a big fan of peeps, you know, go after it, but that's not for me. I don't really like marshmallow though, so maybe that's my problem. Ruben Amaro, low key, would actually be a pretty decent guy to have on the club. This is the guy, by the way, who becomes a general manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. Um, there's a lot to like about his skill set. I think he would be a fine addition to our clubs. Let's go ahead and grab Ruben Amaro. I could get Gail Boykin back, which would be funny. Yeah, let's do it. Bill Nordlund. I actually like him fairly well. I think he's got a chance to be a pretty decent pitcher. So let's grab Nordlund as well. And then I think that ends it for our. Oh, are there catchers? Are there any interesting catchery types? Jay Porta is not a good catcher. It's certainly not good enough for me to consider grabbing him. Harry Bright is not very bright. I mean, there's lots to like about Harry Bright's versatility. I think he's worth taking for that, but I don't know that he is. Oh, sorry, but I don't know if he's the kind of guy that we're necessarily looking for. Yeah, there just aren't catchers being made available to us, which is unfortunate. Mm, there you go. And then we can just kind of chill out and see what happens in spring training with all these Rule 5 guys and see who can take over and make some noise. I should have gotten an outfielder now that I think about it, but I mean, Dick Schofield is definitely proving to be worthy at least of an opportunity in spring training, and that's really all you can ask. I think we switch to the American League for our final team, just because these Cardinals are going to be a buzzsaw. They're going to be hard to get through, and I at least want a chance to win another World Series before we end this series. Oh, Bob Filler got elected to the Hall of Fame. Nice. Anyone else make it? No, just him. You know what? This fucker missed it by 1 percentage point. Uh-uh. Normally I don't care about shit like this, but like that's so ridiculously unfair. We're gonna put him in. I'm gonna abuse my power here to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Not because it makes me look good, although it certainly does, but because the voters very clearly were going to vote him in if they had had another year. And yeah, that's a rounding error. I'm not going to keep someone out of the Hall of Fame because of a rounding error. I just don't appreciate that. Um, I mean, I don't necessarily think Amor Cooper deserved to be in the Hall of Fame personally, but the baseball writers and the owners clearly believe that he did. So, yeah, it is what it is. Right. You increase my player development budget. I've got to upgrade catcher. I can't go into this season with these two guys as our catchers. I simply cannot. Mm, I ain't trading block stuff yet. There are some catchers here, including Clint Courtney. Clint Courtney isn't a great player, but he is a pretty well established catcher. I could see that happening. Les Moss is not a catcher. If I want more depth at catcher, Clint Courtney seems like the way to go, even though I don't necessarily believe he's all that great. I think it's at least worth bringing him in. So what would it cost me to acquire a catcher of his stature? What if we started with Jim Gentile? Was he no longer considered a prospect? Maybe not. The thing is, as much as I want to upgrade a catcher, I don't want to give up anything too special for it. Like, it's not that important to me. Like, Joe Garagiola is a perfectly cromulent starting catcher. I would just like more depth at the position, but I'm not going to sacrifice anything meaningful. So I must bid you adieu and maybe check the waiver wire and see if any tries to slip a catcher through. Oof. So this now becomes priority number one. Connie Johnson just became a non-factor as a starting pitcher, and that deeply concerns me. Who's Charlie Maxwell? The last thing I need is another outfielder, so no thank you. I need a pitcher. I need a pitcher. Sam Jones would be a pretty fine addition to our club. Probably also expensive, but let's at least ask. I can't give you Zoilo Versailles just because I think he's got a chance to be a big time major leaguer, but we're at least getting somewhere. I'm going to start with Jim Gentile. And then I'm going to offer you. I'd rather keep Haddix than Connie Johnson at this point, to be honest with you. Okay, you won't do that. I just feel like giving up Zoilo Versailles is too much, but it might have to be what happens here. He's so raw, though. Like, that's the big thing. I need a guy like Sam Jones now. I need a big time starting pitcher to help keep the rest of the team working at their best. Plus, he's the pitch for me, too. Um, do you have any other prospects that tantalize you? What Ron Herbal? I'll give you Horace Clark, too. This feels like I'm paying too much. No, I am paying too much. Sorry. Damn it. I feel like this is kind of one of two possibilities. It's either we trade Vic Power or we trade Zelda Versailles. And I think we're hurting the club too much to trade Versailles. And I don't want to be that guy that loots a team and then leaves. I don't want to trade Clark, but I think Clark is going to be far more limited than Versailles will. So I think this is the decision that we make. I don't love it, but we desperately needed North starting pitching with Connie Johnson hitting the wall. I still need yet more starting pitching though, which is what's really embarrassing. Like I just keep needing even more starting pitching, but this one might bite us. Um yes, let's turn Jim Genton into a bad pitcher instead of a good hitter. Maybe that's why the game kept saying he wasn't worth anything. It just wasn't convinced he could play first base. I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and shortlist Horace Clark and Jim Gentile. And I just want to see how they do. And Ron Herbal. All right. So that fixes one of our team problems, and then we have a nice upgraded starting pitching. Still can't get a catcher. Still not going to try, I don't think. I think we just roll it back with who we've got and leave that for the next general manager to deal with, because I just don't think there's a readily available player. I do want Mr. Versailles to actually play in spring training, and I actually don't mind him starting at second base over spring training, so we'll do that. Anyone else that is worthy of spring training consideration? Maybe Jim Donahue? Oh, right. I needed to replace somebody else on the player development lab. Um, Tim McCarver, work on your. I literally can't teach you anything about. Oh, because I don't have time. Right. Okay. Then I'm not going to bother that with him. Work on your. Can Dick Schofield play third? Not well. Work on your defense. There we go. Bobby Chance. I do think at this point, our rotation is going to be what defines this season. Um, in a very realistic sense. So good, you improved your batting eye. You've got a lot better at control. I love that. And so did Stigman and Donahue. Amazing. Ed Boucher has declined slightly, but he still does what we need him to do, so I'm not that worried about it. I am more concerned about everyone losing velocity all of a sudden. I don't know what that's about. Hmm. Hmm. Curious. I mean, only missing 2 weeks of the herniated disc is pretty impressive, so I'm not even mad about that one. All right. I have 39 players. I want to carry 12 pitchers. So Coates can go. Chambers can go. I'd love to send Don Connie Johnson. He probably won't take it though. Yeah, he won't. I have to get rid of 6 more pitchers. Okay. All right. I think Stigman goes to the minors. Johnny Cucks goes to the minors. I'm mildly tempted to keeping Jim Donahue in the majors, but I think he needs more time in the minors, so we'll send him down. Yeah, I think it's going to be Bell, Haddix, Jay, Jones, and Padres will be our starting pitchers. So let me go ahead and waive Tom Morgan and return Bill Nordlund to his team because I just like Boykin better. So let me return Nordlund to his team. Which is with 13 pitches, still one too many. I'm going to release Connie Johnson in the hopes that it'll actually help with the clubhouse chemistry because he's just not the same pitcher anymore. So I think this actually makes sense in the long term. But I guess we could keep him until Clem Levine heals just to have another arm, but then we will definitely be releasing him. So I'll put you on the IL. Right, that is our pitching staff. Let's go ahead and set it up the way it needs to be set up. Pitching ratings. I think we start with Sam Jones, then Haddix, then Padres. Johnny Pod Racing. Gary Bell and Joey J. There you go. Relief wise, our very best relief pitcher is probably either Charles Grimsley or Hoyt Wilhelm. I think it goes to Grimsley. What if we tried Grimsley as a stereotypical closer instead of making him into a stopper, and then made? Yeah, let's try this. Let's innovate in the bullpen and let's make Hoyt Wilhelm our stopper, but let's make Charles Grimsley our closer. Because he doesn't have very much stamina, which means he's not very well suited for many other roles. Mudcat Rain is emergency starter, long reliever. Everyone else is middle relief. Yelvington will actually be specialist middle relief. But then Hamilton middle relief, Boykin middle relief, and Johnson middle relief. All right. Position players, way too damn many. Okay. The thing about Dashkovich is he could at least theoretically hit under the right circumstances, so I kind of think he's worth keeping. So the question is, do we keep McBride or do we send Amaro back to his home club? Versailles is going back to the minors. That was always going to happen. Sammy Esposito offers literally nothing of interest to me. I do not believe in Jim Bolger, so we can send him to the minors. I've got to get rid of 3 middle infielders, essentially. Okay. I think Harry Bright just isn't worth it, so we're going to return him to his home club. That's easy decision. Easy choice. I think Amaro returns too, sadly. So then it becomes, of these 3 who stays, Dashkovich, McBride, and Schofield. Schofield is by far the best hitter of the bunch. I think it's McBride. I think McBride is the guy who goes to the minor leagues. And I think that's our opening day roster. So let's go ahead and get it set up the way that it should be, the best way. The Cardinals way. No. Batting ratings, contact. I always like sorting by offense first and then figure out who fills which spots. Um, I think to begin with, Veda Pinson. No, it's Ed Boucher. It's gonna be Boucher then Pinson. I think we do that. No, it's Pinson then Boucher. Final answer. Um, no, swapping them. Sorry, I keep faffing about this. The big difference for me is that Pinson has slightly more power and a lot more contact, whereas Boucher's primary value is drawing walks and punishing hitters when he gets a pitch to hit. So we're gonna let him go ahead and lead off again. Obviously, Mickey Mantle hits third. Like that's not even a moment's consideration for me. Who cleans up? I think it's Ernie Banks, but it could also be Ken Boyer. No, it's Ernie Banks. Colavito's gonna hit sixth, and Boyer's gonna hit fifth. I know in the past I've had Colavito hit fifth. I think the difference for me right now is the fact that Boyer just has more contact. Um, so yeah, I think that's what we do with those two. I need second base and catcher. Who plays second base? It's Vic Power. At least for the start of the season, it's definitely Vic Power. And then our catcher is going to be Garagiola. Oops. There you go. Perfect. Albie Person's a really good center fielder. His problem is he happens to play on the team with the best center fielder in Major League Baseball. And possibly of all time, at least so far. Um, like I hesitate to remind you once again, but I think it's worth noting. Leaderboards. Career. Mickey Mantle is half of Ty Cobb at this point, and is the seven. It is number 17. In terms of if we go only by center fielders, Mickey Mantle is the fifth best center fielder of all time. Oh, because he did play the corners too. That's what holds him back from a guy like say Willie Mays. Although arguably he's a better player than Mays overall, at least in this timeline, the fact he hasn't played center field the whole time holds him back a little bit. But yeah, he's real good. He is real good. He's offering praise. Oh, when I read that headline, I was like, "Yeah, for $20, I'll say nice things about you." He's like, "Oh, it's about Norm Cash. That's funny. That's a good headline. I love it." Oh no, a man named Heine offers praise for Cash. Oh no, that's so good. Oh, that's I love it. Damn it, Dick. Wasn't Floyd Robinson a professional boxer? Maybe. I don't know. Boxing is not a sport I know very much about at all, so I could just be making that up. Like I know about Sugar Ray Robinson. I know there's Floyd Mayweather, and there's someone else back in the past that's named Floyd. I thought it was Robinson, but maybe not. Damn. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't have a lineup against pitching. Whoops. That would have been embarrassing. We just don't field the team if there's a lefty on the mound. Like, fuck you. We're not gonna play that shit. All right. I think all the baseball stations we need to make. Oh, do we need to add anybody to the roster? I don't believe so. I mean, the split second that Clem Labine is healthy enough to go, we're releasing Connie Johnson. Like, that's going to happen. Plus, it might even improve clubhouse chemistry if he's really as big of an asshole as people seem to think he is. I do enjoy my dicks, but I do not enjoy assholes. That's just how I am, I'm sorry. Tom Morgan and Jim Bolger, again, nobody wanted them. Remember when I thought Tom Morgan would actually be like a top tier pitcher for us, and then he just never did? I remember that. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Connie Johnson, thank you so much for your service as a member of the Cardinals. We really appreciate you, but, you know, there you go. I think our clubhouse vibes are so good it didn't really matter that he was selfish. It does matter that Joey J and Harry Hacks are getting their brains beat in, but, you know, it just might take some time. Unlike the real version of Red Sherndines, this one doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of making the Hall of Fame, I don't believe. He just wasn't that good a player in this version of reality. His peak is basically non existent. Like, he had one really good year in 46, a really good year in 52, and then a few years that were pretty decent. But he didn't really have the heights you want to see from a Hall of Fame level player. He was merely a very good and durable player for a reasonably long time, which unfortunately isn't always enough to get you in the Hall of Fame. All right, let's just keep on keeping on right now. That is an eclectic group of players. All of them are very excellent. I think Miguel Tejada really kind of gets forgotten. If you're thinking of like the good 90s and early 2000s shortstops, I think Tejada keeps getting forgotten, but I think that's a mistake. Was he as good as, say, your Nomars, your Alex Rodriguez, your Omar Vizquels? No, but he was also really good. Like, you certainly weren't hurting if he was your shortstop. That's a true statement. Okay. Johnny Pod Racing is also getting worse. This could be a disastrous season if we can't figure out how to fucking pitch this year. How did he drop off so far? Like, I guess he didn't drop off that far. I guess he's always. I think he's hypersensitive to his velocity because they didn't have that much to begin with. Um, but that is disappointing, and it's gonna mean we're gonna have to find yet another starting pitcher somehow, and I just don't know how we accomplish that. But let's give it another month and see how things go. Like, you can't just bludgeon other teams into submission, but that's not a guaranteed method. 22 runs in a single game. Holy shit, man. Um, you're just playing every day that week, Stan Lopata. Sorry. Because putting him on the IL doesn't make any sense. I'd lose him for 2 weeks instead of one. And I just don't have I'd have a good catcher to back him up. So, some people are getting a tiny bit worse. Oviedo's getting better. Stigman's getting better. You might be needed sooner rather than later. Johnny Cucks is getting slightly better. Zoilo Versailles is now like a good second baseman, which is excellent news. Ernie Banks was the hitter of the week. Nice. How did Tim Williams end up on the White Sox? Oh, you traded him. Interesting. Okay. I was looking to see if there's any wild stuff here. Oh no, not William Kelly. Nice. Very nice. Man, Bob Gibson playing for someone other than the Cardinals feels weird, but 3 homers for Ernie Banks. Is the game we got 22 runs? Yeah, I did. Look at this fucking loser hitting a single in the first inning. I'm joking. He's really good, it turns out. Andy Papko's gonna retire. Harvey Haddix had a shutout. Nice. Batting leaders at third base. Most runs at third base. Ken Boyer is second. Sam Jones got pitcher of the month. Of course he did. Very good. Is there much to change? Not really at this point. Like, I need starting pitching, but I don't know where that's going to come from. Is there anything? I could have quite. No, Bill Henry's not a starting pitcher. Don't lie to me, game. Don Newcomb could be, but he's not a very good pitcher. Meh, throwing 6 pitches poorly isn't really what you're looking for in a successful baseball pitcher. So, all right. You know whose music that sounds like to me? That sounds like Zolo Versailles getting his first taste of Major League pitching. I just want to let him play in the majors for a little bit. Just get a little taste and see what happens as a result. I don't think we just leave the rest of the depth chart alone. Another 22 runs. When this lineup is cooking, I think we're unstoppable offensively. The problem is our pitching staff is concerning. You know what? He acquitted himself okay in his first Major League Baseball experience. I think he can return to the minors satisfied that he is doing well. And good old Vic Power can return to his place in the grand scheme of things. I mean, this lineup is number one with a bullet. Like, we're just so damn good from top to bottom. Even Joe Garagiola decided to hit this year. That's insane. And this is with Mickey Mantle having a down year relative to himself because Veda Pinson is just stupidly good again. Like, it's not fair that we have 2 players this bloody good on the same team. I could swap Boyer and Colavito. Frankly, I don't want to touch the lineup. I think the lineup is fine. And I think we just kind of keep rolling and see what happens at this stage. Like, I don't think there's a ton we can do to make any kind of meaningful impact. Like, we basically just need to keep doing what we do. And if we don't make the postseason, we don't make the postseason. But them's the breaks when you only have 2 postseason spots. You know, that's a thing that's gonna happen. There's not much you can do about that. I feel like both of these coaches get to stay. That'll be my last action is to hire Lloyd Bruce for a new contract. Like, I'm imagining, like, over the course of this season, we've been having lots of chats about, like, okay, this is how you manage the club. This is how you work on things, and hopefully I'll leave them in good shape when we depart for a new challenge. Nice work, Joey J. Very nice work. Sam Jones made the All Star team, as did Hoyt Wilhelm. Ken Boyer, Veda Pinson, Mickey Mantle, and Ernie Banks all made it. Nice. Very nice. Ernie Banks is having himself a coming out party this year. I didn't even notice that in the light of Veda Pinson, but he's like What if I had 64 home runs in a single season? How would that look? I'm just imagining like the scene from Breaking Bad, they can't keep getting away with this. Like we just keep having all-time greats at every position. And it may not matter. Yeah, mediocre reliever is definitely not what I'm looking for, but thank you for the offer. Mm-mm. No, I need a starting pitcher. That is what I require. Or failing a starting pitcher, a catcher would be nice. I don't know, man. I don't want to fuck with the vibes. And the vibes are pretty solid right now. I don't know. That's a hard pass from me, dog. I mean, we could make the bullpen ridiculous. Sure. Like, this gives us the most dominating bullpen in the major leagues. Like, that's amazing. Poor Gale Boykin, like, he's actually had an okay season, but adding a reliever with the raw talent of Bobby Chance and just, like, letting him dominate is pretty special. We'll use him more often, too. Because I don't know that this rotation has the raw talent it needs to truly excel. Maybe it does. Like right now, my postseason starters are Sam Jones, Gary Bell, and then beyond that, it's a bunch of question marks. That was one of the easiest trade decisions I've ever made in my entire life. Like, why would I not make that trade? I'm not questioning it, but that was huge. That was huge. Pete Runnels and Jim Gilliam aren't that interesting. I really need outfielders. The thing is, this is the only season Bill Henry has been great. What would it cost me to bring him in? Too much. No, 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 no. These conversations are over. I will advance to the next sim, and then we'll see if anybody makes me an offer. But yeah, I think honestly, adding Bobby Chance is a pretty nice bit of business. And there we go. Pretty much nothing of interest happened there. Like it is razor thin. And I know it's not going to take much for us to get on a hot streak and try to bury the Cubs, but we just don't have any control over that. All we can do is just keep winning and hope that the Cubs make a mistake. Like maybe hoping that one of my starters starts picking up. The Cubs are definitely blessed with a pretty great pitching staff, probably better than mine. Well, you got to keep scoring 22 runs a game. That's the secret, right? Just score 22 runs every game, and I feel pretty good about your chances. I think the best adjective for this lineup is relentless. Like, we're just so good from top to bottom that there's no easy outs. And I think that just puts so much pressure on other teams. And there's just not a lot they can do about that. I love the old Reds logo. It's amazing. The red legs, sorry, my apologies. Let's just go to the end of the regular season. Just got to keep racking up the dubs and go back to the World Series for our final time with the St. Louis Cardinals, and then we can see what happens. I mean, I didn't think Kansas City was going to make the postseason. It would be cool if they did, but I cannot bring myself to play as the Yankees next year. Like I know that would probably be the best choice. Oh, we clinched we clinched the National League. No, it's the other Chicago. Sorry. Um, yeah, I just don't think I could play as the Yankees. It just feels wrong. I always look at their record like maybe they're a bunch of fucking losers in this timeline, and I'd actually be helping them. But I don't know, man. I think the Tigers might be the team I pick. I've been the Tigers already, have I? I don't think so. No, we did Boston to Boston, St. Louis to St. Louis. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking the Tigers, unless the Yankees have just been a total dumpster fire, which I doubt that they were, but let's take a look here. How have they done historically? They have two World Series championships. That is fascinating. Interesting. Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing to play as the Yankees. Hmm. We'll see. I'll make that decision at the end of the episode. After we have, of course. No, because I'll still get to see the awards anyway. I'll also get to see who made it from the Cardinals. There we go. It's the Cardinals and the Senators in the World Series again. Okay. All right. Veda Pinson wins a batting title. Um, which is, I mean, it's just great. Ernie Banks was the best player in the major leagues this year. I mean, when your shortstop hits 51 home runs casually, that's the sign of a pretty good player. Mm. All right, playoff roster time. Um, there you go. We're just gonna keep the regular roster. There's no reason to fuck with this shit. Pitching wise, though, we will go to a four-man rotation, and I think the odd man out is actually Johnny Padres. He's really struggled this season, and I think we'd be better suited letting Joey J pitch over him. Yeah, can be a middle reliever. Our bullpen is so stinking good, you guys. It's almost embarrassing in a good way. Don Drysdale's the only pitcher of theirs that I've actually heard of before. Oh no, Bob Friend. I've heard of Bob Friend too. Not Don Mossy or Bill Henry though. Oof. A rough start to the World Series. Definitely no sweeps this year. If we're caught in a low scoring game, that definitely does not go in our favor. We've got to bludgeon the shit out of them. I think that's the key to our success. I mean, hey, I will take a 3-0 victory. I will happily take a 3-0 victory and a great game by Joey J. Hmm. A bunch of people that nobody cares about retired. Okay. But I'm sure somebody cares about them. I just don't. Interesting. It's been our pitching dominating, which is pretty crazy, right? Like that is not what this team was about at all during the regular season. But then fucking Harvey Haddix just casually throws a fucking shutout in the postseason. And we finally get into a blowout, and we're actually the ones that lose the game. Interesting. Okay, good. Can we bring it in for one final World Series? No, we cannot. Not yet, anyway. Interesting. Both big scoring games we actually lost. That's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. Damn it. Yeah. Every game that was high scoring was one that we lost. It's not that the team hit badly. It's that, well, Ernie Banks wasn't as good as he was. Damn. But this is a pretty. I don't know how exciting this would have been as a World Series to watch. Definitely the first few games are really exciting. I guess none of them were really blowouts beyond Game 7. Harvey Haddock went from giving a shutout to just getting dunked on pretty hard. And then Johnny Padres just finished it off by just completely imploding. So, you know what, though? I'm fine with that. I am completely fine with what this team accomplished this year. I think it's a perfectly fine way to end our tenure with the St. Louis Cardinals. I truly believe that. How did we get it done this year? Well, I think one of the first and most interesting things about this season in particular is that Mickey Mantle was the third best player on the team. And that is not to say that Mickey Mantle was a bad player in any sense of the imagination. But he is struggling in center field now. I think the future version of the Cardinals is going to angry about team record. We fucking won 101 games, motherfucker. How does that have you grumpy? Unless you're just pissed we lost the World Series, which in which case fair. Um, yeah, I mean he was really stinking good as always. So Ernie Banks becoming an MVP candidate and doubling his WAR from the past season is not something I expected. But he had an amazing season. Vada Pinson took his incredible rookie season and just dialed back a little bit in the place that we expected. He was never going to get 16 triples again, but he's built on every other aspect of his game. More hits, more road doubles, led the league in batting average, stole 26 bases, just an incredible season. Ken Boyer gets better every year, and that's an awesome, awesome sight. Rocky Calbuda settled into a really interesting pattern. In that he's pretty consistent with the number of home runs he hits sometimes, but he usually gets a decent number of doubles. He's a really good hitter. And on a lot of other teams, he'd actually be one of the best, just not this one. Ed Boucher did what he needs to do. Like, his job is to get this lineup running, and that is precisely what he does. Vic Power, first full season as a Cardinal, not quite as good as he was last year for us, but still pretty good. He didn't have quite as much power. He didn't hit balls over the fence as much, but he was still a really good second baseman when we needed one. And even Joe Garagiola really overcarried his weight this year. I have nothing bad to say about this lineup. Not in the least. What about our pitching? And here I think this is kind of what I expected. We just don't have the top flight pitching we used to have. We have really good pitchers, but we don't have aces. Oh, Sam Jones is the closest we have to an ace, and he had a fantastic year for us. Was he slightly better with Pittsburgh last year? Yes, but that's okay. That's all right. Harvey Haddix was fine. Joey J was fine. Johnny Padres was fine, although he's definitely turning in the wrong direction. Gary Bell had a bit of a stumble from his successful season last year, but still a good one. Like, I'm not going to complain about any pitcher that wins 17 games with a 3.77 ERA. Our bullpen was sensational. I really think overinvesting in the bullpen really took us to new heights. And helped mitigate the fact we didn't have a great rotation this year. But I feel pretty good about this season all the same, though. And I feel really good about our run. There's not many teams in baseball history that can say they won 6 pennants in a row and won the World Series 3 times in those 6 years. Like, this is one of the great dynasties in our league. Possibly rivaled by that original Red Sox run or the Braves run. Actually, all of my runs have been pretty spectacular, except for the one with the St. Louis Browns. That one was a little bit less exciting. Um, I mean, am I the greatest manager, general manager of all time? Of course I am. But then that's kind of what I expect. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying like that's if you know what you're doing in this game, it's not easy to be successful, but it is definitely possible to be successful. So, um, it's all about investing in player development. I think that's the single most important tip I can give anyone new to this game. Invest in player development hard. It is the key to a team being successful. Because if you're going to want to control costs, you're going to have to get prospects at the right time. Now, right now, look, I have an infinite payroll. I basically can't fail, but. All right. Do we pick the Yankees? I've never played the Yankees in OOTP before. I think we're going to try it. Oh, interesting. Let me go ahead and say quit job. Interesting. The Yankees don't even want me. Oh, I think they just hired somebody, so I guess we are playing as the Tigers. Okay. Here we go. We can spend a little bit of time. What do we have to work with here? I think it's just easier to see on the roster screen. Let's sort by overall. Where do we have talent? Jim Landis is pretty great. Like, is he make command? Well, of course not. There's only one make command, but he's a really good center fielder. I think he's a great building block. Ed Bailey's pretty solid. Pete Runnels is fine. We've got okay players. I just don't know that we have any dominating players. This definitely could use a big influx of high quality talent. I can't help but notice how few of my pitchers are on this list, though. That does concern me. Yeah, Don Larson is our best starting pitcher, and that's not amazing. I mean, Mike Cuellar is pretty good, and he's going to be a special guy, but we do have Don Minchner in the minor leagues. We have Jimmy Hall in the minor leagues, but I don't really have any other I don't really think we have any high profile prospects in the pipeline. We sort by Los Tigres. Oh, Johnny Edwards still counts as a prospect too. Interesting. He's actually not that good though. We do have Hawk Harrelson, which is a thing that we have. Bob Tillman's on Major League Ready, which isn't that exciting given how bad he is. So we've got a work cut out for us, but we do have the number 7 pick in the draft. So I think the Yankees' job would have been more interesting because they've got 2 picks in the first round. But this draft has some serious talent in it, like some really serious talent in it. So yeah, I'm just saying, who would say no to Carl Yastrzemski in a White Sox uniform? Or White Sox, Tigers uniform. If I want to go pitching, we got Sutton Sam McDowell, we got Mickey Lolich in there, Wilbur Wood, Louis Tiant. This is a really deep draft. I think we're going to get 2 really good players out of this draft, at the very minimum, maybe 3. And that's pretty awesome. Because one thing I'm pretty confident about is that we've got a good catcher. And so other teams that want a catcher, yeah, like I think Ed Bailey's a perfectly fine catcher. I think he's great. I'm not gonna fucking waste any energy getting a new catcher with this team right now. So we'll see what happens, friends. Until next time, this has been Guardian. Thank you for watching, and I bid you good day.